Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to our show. We have gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the multiverse, two of the nerdiest geeks to be found. We proudly present the professor and her geeky girlness herself, Ace. And now it's time. GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace.
Hey everybody, welcome to GeekyKOOL presents Professor and Ace episode 67. This is our Halloween special. It is. We're coming right along. Right beside me over here is Ace, also known as Lola today. Lola is an awesome character. So she's going to be with us today talking about our favorite Halloween / spooky / scary
I don't know if I like scary. I like Halloween though. You get to dress up.
Fun. It is. You get to dress up a lot, and some works let you dress up. So
I know. All right, AJ here. Today at work we had a wonderful costume dress up day, and almost every single person in my office dressed up, which I've never had happen.
That's
so
rare.
Lola, who is my original character of a probably preteen fangirl from the 90s, decided to come and play. And in a little bit I'll show you the pants, because
we do need to see the pants, because the pants are awesome.
I hand painted my jeans that have pretty much everything from Rosie from the Jetsons to Deadpool on it. So
they're pretty awesome.
I got
guys.
to have fun today, and
That's
then I got
good.
to interview people like this today.
And how did that go, interviewing people like this?
Most people were like, "Oh my gosh, you're the cutest nerd ever."
And that's true. That's always true.
Anyway, they're like, I didn't wear this for the interviews, but this is like one of my favorite things. It just makes me look crazy and fun. But I did have the tape on my glasses and the extra freckles and the suspenders with all the buttons.
I know those are awesome.
I lost a button today.
I love button stuff like that. The 80s had a ton of button stuff. So
I know. I lost my Star Wars button today.
That's not good. No, not the Star Wars
it's in
one.
My car, but my car's not here. But yeah, no, I collect buttons like I used to anyway when I would go to cons and everything.
We'll be back to cons soon. Next year.
So we said this year.
Well, I know, but this year still sucks. So next year. Next year we're doing cons. We're going to do a lot of them.
But Halloween is, I always tell people Halloween's my favorite holiday, because it is. If you ever come into my house, you will see Halloween everywhere, year round.
Yep.
From the skeletons and dinosaur bones in my front yard to my hallway to Shpoo's collection of scary movie horror figures, and just it's comics and horror in my house all the time.
Well, and you at one point at least you had baby doll heads that were.
Well, see, I do macabre art. So it's one of my art therapies. Now, I haven't been able to do art for the last year and a half just for supplies. But I do take baby dolls apart and burn them and staple their mouths shut. And just think of me as Wednesday Addams all grown up.
See, there you go.
With a little punk comic book
it's
girl
a little Halloweenish there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And a little bit of the boy next door on Toy Story, but different. But
I mean,
you're not mean.
Let's face it, he would have so dated Wednesday Addams in her angsty teenage years.
She would have killed him, but that's okay.
She would have, but it's okay. We don't discuss the bodies buried in the back.
Well,
unless it's Halloween, and then they come out to play.
Yeah, they come out to play, exactly. Well, let's get on this, because not only do we want to do our top favorite TV shows, but we wanted to throw in some of our favorite Halloween specials along with it. A 2-for-1 deal, but yet not run us too long, because unfortunately, Ace is a little under the weather. She's made a sacrifice to be here. That's why we did not do it last night. But so we're going to try to get through some of these and have some fun with it. and go from there. So, would you like me to go ahead and start off? And then,
Sure, because I don't have a list.
Lola, you're supposed to bring a list. We told you to bring a list.
But I didn't know what to put on it. There's too many choices.
I know, right? There is. So hopefully I will get some of mine, and as you see what's missing, you can add to it. We're going to start with a classic here that probably, and I know this is one of Shpoo's favorites, but we're going to go from the 60s. We're going to go a little Twilight Zone.
The Twilight Zone. So, yes, it is one of Shpoo's favorites. I love it too. We just watched the remake with Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
2 seasons, and then now they're not going to do season 3, which is frustrating.
That is frustrating.
But it's not as good because Jordan Peele will never replace Sterling. Let's just face it.
Right.
No one will ever replace him.
That's exactly right.
But the stories are really fun. The original Twilight Zone just took people on these mind-bending adventures through the Twilight Zone. And you could say that now. You could say that now, and people are like, "Oh yeah, I understand." But back then, you got to imagine, like, that wasn't the term for it.
Right.
Like, coined that term.
He did coin that term.
But they're just wonderful. It's a wonderful anthology of stories that just mess with your mind a little bit and make you wonder what is real and what is not real, and do monsters exist? Are we the monsters? It was politically driven on some stories, but it was always done in such a low key way that it wasn't in your face.
Right.
But like my favorite is oh my gosh. See, this is why I'm under the weather, guys. So please forgive me if I can't remember the exact episode names. Shpoo will hurt me. I know he won't, but he'll be like, I can't believe you can't remember the name. But the one where the guy wishes to read books all the time, and is it The Last Man on Earth?
It may be. I don't remember I'm bad with the titles of
but
episodes.
It's where he wants to read all the time, and his wife's like, stop reading, and then he is the last man on Earth.
Right.
And he's like, goes to the library, and he's like, now I have all the time to read. And then he steps on his glasses and he can't see anything.
Right, exactly. Now it's, the glasses part's what gets you right at the end.
Yes.
Like, oh no. Oh,
because he can't see anything without his glasses. And they're extreme prescription. So it's not like he can just go, there's stores that probably have some glasses still laying around, but he might not be able to see with it. And it's just this heart-tugging story. There's all kinds of great stories with the Twilight Zone. There
are. And of course, probably the best known is William Shatner's Gremlin episode on the airplane. And you've got that. You've got one of my favorites is the one where the astronauts end up in the zoo for the aliens.
Yes.
That's a cool episode.
And that's the thing that I said. It's like a political. It's social and political statements made into suspense, horror. Not horror as much, but some like scary moments. Yeah. But it's really a suspense and thoughtful take on things.
Well, and that's my favorite kind of horror is suspense type. So, that works well. So
it works really well. And I think it should be on, if people have not seen the original Twilight Zone, I don't know why. You can't beat it. It's kind of like watching an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Because in knowing Alfred Hitchcock chose every single direction of the camera, and every set piece was chosen to push the story forward or give it an ambiance, and Rod Serling did that with the Twilight Zone as well. So cinematically, it was a new way of viewing TV as well, in a weird sense, because it was not the same characters every week going through stories. It was an anthology, and it was so popular, and to this day it still stands up.
It spurred on shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Amazing
Yes.
Stories, even Tales from the Crypt over on
Yep.
HBO in the 80s. Many other
Factor
shows too.
Fiction or
Yeah.
Beyond Belief,
Yeah.
Factor Fiction.
Mhm.
The other Twilight Zones, because it had a remake in the 80s, and then it had the remake just a couple years, with the Jordan Peele. Without Twilight Zone, I don't think anthology-based TV shows would be a thing.
Right. Or at least it wouldn't have come around quite as early. So, yeah.
Right. And I still don't think it would be a thing because it had to show the formula.
Right.
All TV shows, all movies have formulas.
It's true.
Like all books have formulas. There are 7 stories that are told over and over again in different ways. And that being said, the anthology breaks that mold for a specific TV show because you can tell a romance story in one episode, and then you can tell a horror story in the other, and then you can tell suspense in the other. So it breaks that mold of being stuck in a certain genre. It's a science fiction movie because a lot of it is based in sci-fi and based in horror, but it breaks that genre because if he wanted to throw in a little romance in that or a little thriller in that or any of those things, action, adventure kind of thing, he could. A lot of them do not have that, but you have moments of that in some of the episodes, which is great.
You certainly do. Well, in some of them, they're driven by their love and their desire for love. The episode with the guy that's in the bus stop, is it the bus stop? And things are completely different than what they're supposed to be. Yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. Just kind of a wild thing. But yeah, so that was my first one that's on the list, of course, because Twilight Zone has to be on a list like that, in my opinion. So, do you want to throw one out? Because I know that you had mentioned one earlier. Or...
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a couple that, of course, if we're talking about sci-fi, horror, thriller kind of, TV shows that go off, not just the specials, but there are some great specials on certain
and we'll get
episodes
to the specials
and stuff.
Right.
But we're talking about shows that are driven by that. I love that genre so much that it's really hard not to have some that just come to mind. The one I threw out earlier is probably one of my favorites from when I was younger. And I'm not saying way younger, but those early 20s and stuff. And it was Charmed.
Yeah, here we go.
I love that, you got all 4 sisters in there, even though, Prue.
Even though they only did 3 at a time, right?
Prue left.
Piper,
who was played by Holly Marie Combs in the middle there, she's my favorite. She was married to Leo, who's an angel, and Phoebe was married to Cole, who was a demon. So, but that's the kind of show it was. It was very much about sisters and power, and but you had different demonology, you had different Wiccan history, you had it actually intertwined real folklore into certain stories and stuff like that.
Right.
But there were seasons that were better than others.
And that's always true.
There were storylines that drug on a little too long.
Yep.
But overall, if you watch, and I've rewatched the series 3 times since it's, was not renewed. But they wrapped it up. It was one of those that at least got wrapped up. And they knew it was going to be the last episode. And so it is a last episode, which is always fun because I always hate it when things are left hanging and you I just want to know what happened. But it's just a really fun, and if you like witches and magic and that sort of thing, it's just a really fun watch. I will say that the writing and the consistency in the story got better probably late of the first season, And then when Shannon Doherty's character Prue exited the show, and Paige came in, which is oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. Everybody's going to be like, I can't believe you can't think of her name.
It's all right. It's all right.
Or is it Rose? Rose something. I can't think of her last name. But when she came in, they had to change the dynamic, and I think the dynamic worked better for TV.
Right.
Just the characters, the character building had worked better with those three than with Prue. But it's still great. It's still a good watch. I would suggest, watching it. It's streaming on a couple sites. So
that's awesome.
They did a remake.
They did. Oh, that's right. They were remaking it. I did know that.
Yeah.
How was the remake?
But the problem I had with the remake is they wanted it to. They could have done the remake and not made them Halliwells, and redone it with three sisters who are, have the same kind of powers and that sort of thing. But they changed the names. They made it where they're Spanish descendants. So they changed that, which was fine, but then they should have brought in more like that lore and that history and stuff. They changed not enough of it to make it work for the characters they were then given. Right. And that's an issue. It's a big issue. That's the only problem I have with remakes is if you're going to remake it, especially a TV show that was as popular as it was, don't remake it to be so similar that it's being compared every time to the original. Right. Remake it and be completely different, but have like that same baseline story throughout. Right. I think it would have been way more successful. I don't know if it's still going on. I watched the first season of it and I didn't enjoy it as much. Just because I felt like they didn't change enough of it to make it make sense for the characters they've now had. I hate when you're like, I've already seen this because I've seen the original, and two, then you make characters or you take things to the so extreme that it's not even the same show. Like, why did you even call it the same name? And I feel like name recognition. There's a balance. Like there is. This is just for any TV people out there who might happen to watch our little tiny show. If you're remaking a TV show and you want to pull in the same audience, give the same kind of storyline, the same feel, the same. But if you're going to just completely remake it word for word or something and then just change names or change the ethnic background of your characters, the heritage of your characters, then you need to change up what they're learning. Right. If you have a character who is very Irish and, like leprechauns and fairies and stuff like that, and then you change them to a person of color for the remake, there's nothing wrong with doing a story like that with a person of color, but then take in their heritage because they have such a heritage. Right. Then take in their heritage and put that in there, and I think it would work better. I would also showcase the heritage of the characters you have just now created in your world. So
right on. Yeah, that's always a really iffy thing, and I actually prefer if you're going to kind of remake it, take it. You can use the same name with part of it, but make sure that people know that this is either a continuation or a new spin, and all of that. That way people have that understanding with the characters.
Yeah, and they could have done that a lot with the new Charmed, because the way the Charmed ended was that the very last episode is you see the future generations of the Halliwell family. At least a couple of them. And so they could have carried it on with that in mind. But, it is what it is.
I'm with you. So, for those of you that may be watching over on Facebook, and we do appreciate that you are, if you're watching on my live stream, your comments don't show up in here for us to see right away, just so you know. And Jason was over on that stream and did say Rod Sterling is a freaking genius. And he's right. Rod Sterling is a freaking genius. So if you want to leave comments, go on over either to our YouTube channel or go over to the GeekyKOOL
Facebook
page. Yeah,
because that's the one he's got pulled up. See his little computer in front of him.
Yep.
Because we can only pull up one of our.
It only brings to this. It only brings in one set of comments there with us at once. Jason, I did leave a message, and he did pop over the GeekyKOOL one, and this is what he said. You know, and I agree. Make it for creative reasons if you can. I mean, there's nothing wrong with telling a tale from a different creative standpoint and using different ethnicity, using whatever. That's all fine.
I think that's beautiful. Like if you could recreate, you know, a show that was about, you know, a white American family that aired in the 70s, and you want to recreate that, do a Spanish American family or colored family or you know, an Asian American family, and pick them and tell similar stories, but not exact. And that's the thing, when you try to tell it exactly, you're missing the point of that, and that's the problem. A good example is they have a new Wonder Years out.
Yeah.
But they have not. I've watched a couple episodes of it, and I love the Wonder Years. This is not Halloween, but I love the Wonder Years, and the first 2 episodes of the new one is all I've watched, so I can't judge completely, but at least there's a different name. They have different attitudes. It's not about the kid going through exactly the same things, because they wouldn't have gone through exactly the same things, because
especially not in that time frame.
Yes, because it's different. Different families, different heritages have different experiences in different time frames.
Yeah,
and so you pull from the heritage of whatever your character is, even if it's a rebooted character. That's what's fun about it.
Right, I'm with you. So let's move along here a little bit, and
I get on a pedestal.
You know what? That's all right. I don't mind that. I'm just sure. It is a soapbox. I don't mind the soapboxes. So we're going to bring it on over here. My next one, and this one was on. This is a more recent one, and it was on for 15 freaking seasons. 15 freaking seasons. I love the first 5 seasons. The next 10 I still enjoyed, but it was kind of rehashing a lot. And, you know, it's a couple guys in a car, couple brothers in a car. I really like the show, even when the seasons weren't that great, because there were some seasons you're like, oh my gosh.
It happens to all movies or all TV shows that have long runs.
It does.
Unless the original writers and the original producers and everyone who made it what it was in the first couple seasons are still the ones running the show, which doesn't happen a lot in TV.
It does not.
They switch, and that's when your formula changes a little, and that's when your writing might. Even Doctor Who, you know, when you have a showrunner leave and you get a new showrunner, it's an adjustment to everyone because they do it differently.
And we're getting a new showrunner that's the former showrunner for the Doctor.
Yeah, I know.
I'm excited.
Kind of excited about that one.
I am. I'm excited. So, but anyway, so the Winchester Boys and all their things. Now, there's a few complaints I've had over the years with this series. I still love this series, so it's on my top 5 list. So I'm not complaining about this series because it's not that I don't love it, but there's just certain things that get annoying to me. One is every time you make an interesting female character, you kill them. Stop killing all the female characters.
Here's the thing with it. And I agree with that. I don't think it's necessary. However, you have to look at it through the eyes of who the show's about. And if you have an interesting female character, they set the bar in the first couple episodes.
Yeah, right.
With the girlfriend being murdered
right away. Burned her on the ceiling, just like mom.
Murdered on the ceiling, just like their mom.
But mom's dead the same way. And you see that.
They killed the mom off the same way when they were children. So they set it up to have this tragic thing, but it works for this show in a weird way. And I'm all about having strong female characters, and not that these women aren't strong, but they are now the driving force behind what these guys are doing, besides finding their father.
Right.
But their father's driving force was, finding
Revenge
what killed his wife.
Right.
So you put these things together, and it's love, and it's protection, and it's all these like basic human things. If you have a strong female character who lasts too long, whether she's killed off or they just leave town, or she just doesn't go with them. If you try to put one in there for too long, it would change the dynamic of the show, and it would change the reasoning behind their drive to do what they're doing.
Right. Well, and a lot of times the strong females that they had were ones that weren't on there very often. They may have show up 3 or 4 times during the season.
Yeah.
But yet they always found a way to go. Now, in the last few seasons, we had the 2 sheriffs and the girls that were living with them. That those girls are awesome. I really wanted a Wayward Daughters show that they tried. Anyway, but yeah, I understand, and I know that you're trying to focus on this one move, but I'm like, my gosh, I'm like, that's a cool character. We're gonna kill them off. Stop killing all the characters.
But
and they did to a lot of guys too. A lot of the guy characters died also. Pretty much anybody. If you were friends with the Winchesters, you were gonna die.
And if you were starting to fall for one of the Winchesters, you're definitely going to die.
You're dead. Yeah, exactly.
But what's great about that, Larry, is that you literally are feeling the grief and like a little bit of the grief and stuff that those characters are supposed to feel. And so then it makes you connect with those characters, the Winchester boys, a little bit more.
But after 10 seasons of doing this, I got to the point of where I'm not going to have any feelings towards any, especially female characters, because you're going to kill them.
But that also connects you, because think about the Winchesters. They start off, both of them, but Sam especially starts off in a very like loving and tender and caring and like wanting to have a normal life type of life, and then it's ripped away from him, and slowly over the seasons you see his heart getting harder and harder, and he wants to protect it because he's gone through so much grief. And so that also is what is good about that show. I will say there are seasons that are better than others, but
there are.
You got 15 seasons of supernatural stuff. You're gonna have some weak points. You just are.
I love the first early seasons where they're introducing types of cryptoids and types of monsters that you don't typically see, or things that you may not be as familiar with. Because I learned a lot by watching that. Now, not that I believe everything that was on that show is the way things are, but I just kind of learned a lot about some different type of monsters that were out there that I didn't know about, which I loved in the first few seasons. So, but I do love that show. I actually really like the ending. There are people that hate the ending, that final episode.
I haven't seen the final episode. I'm rewatching. It's one of the things that we're rewatching slowly, so we are just like, we just want to rewatch the whole thing and then but you know how long that takes. It's 15 seasons.
Exactly. Well, and you know how it is with people when you're invested in characters for any type of show. The ending is always one of those things where people either love or hate it, and people have a tendency to hate endings of any shows, no matter what it is now. So
Well, because you're always going to have disappointments, and
Right.
that's the thing. Like, I think that's one of the things I liked about Charmed was that it wrapped everything up and it gave you a glimpse into the future. But most shows aren't allowed to do that. Like, it doesn't fit their narrative or how they've done storytelling for so long.
Right.
And so that's an issue. People especially when we have these characters that we've become so invested in for so many years, we really want to know, well, what happened to them? How did it happen? You want the story to continue, but it can't.
Right.
And so they try to wrap things up, or they don't. They just leave it completely open-ended, and you're like, why? What happened? But
Right. But sometimes then you get to write the fun fan fiction that way. So there you go. So we've got a few comments here. So Jason throws this out here. He has to go to work tonight, but loved Chris Carter's other series, Millennium. And Millennium was a great series. There's only one season of it. It did end weird. It was wrapped up in another Chris Carter series. I believe it was wrapped up in the Lone Gunman series, if I remember that right. It may have been wrapped up on X-Files. We will come back to Chris Carter here in a little while because there is a show that makes my list. It's not Millennium, though, even though I like Millennium. It was an odd series, but I did like that. Jesse says, loves to talk about characters. Well, Jesse, we love to talk about characters. We love...
It's what we do.
Love, right. We talk about movies and TV, and we talk about geek stuff all in general, but we love characters. So both of us being writers. I
was going to say, if you ever watch our shows, or you go back and watch some of our other shows, you will notice that when it's just the professor and I, most of our picks and most of the reasoning behind it are either character driven or, in my case, like I love the details, like the sets and the way the camera is angled and all those little details that a good director and a good props person and stuff can put together. So
Jason also said the only series that he didn't loathe was MASH and Parks and Rec ending. So yeah, and MASH wrapped up really nicely. I have not seen the ending of Parks and Rec. It's not on my top shows. I like Parks and Rec, but it's not one of those things that I had to watch. So I'm interested to see it. And Jesse says MASH was a big, beautiful, and surprising, fulfilling ending. Yeah, corporate cleaner.
Corporate cleaner, really? That's
yeah.
So Klinger is always one of my favorites because
Klinger was great, right?
Because he was such a good comic relief for the show.
Exactly. Exactly.
Going forward, and Professor has no idea what I'm going to say because I didn't give him a list.
No list for you.
I would say, like, going into that vein of supernatural TV shows and stuff like that, I really liked Buffy.
Yep.
Player.
Well, here's the thing: is I really like Buffy also, and she's on my list. But that's all right because I actually have a spare out there. I think, but well, you know what? I think she made my short list of things that I didn't include. So we'll get Buffy's picture up here. But I love Buffy, so go right ahead.
The opposite of what you were talking about with Supernatural is Buffy is full of strong female characters.
Yes, it is.
Who are diverse and who are, each of them they bring certain powers and you get to watch them grow and watch them start understanding their powers and coming into their own, which is always a fun aspect of a TV show.
I agree.
The guys,
the early cast, season 1 or 2, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Of course, you have, your vampires that are good. Not very many of them. You have, Willow being a witch.
Right.
And
witch.
And all of this stuff. And they develop into these characters that use their strength and but they become a family and they bond. Even when they don't like each other, they love each other. And that's a cool thing.
I agree. It's a great show. It's very fun and lighthearted, but yet still has a lot of depth to the characters and to the writing, and yeah.
Yeah, we
And-
won't talk about like the whole, bad aspect of on the set.
Well,
kind of
right,
thing.
and that's stuff that we did not know about there. That was
No,
going on, and
that's the thing. It's like a lot of these shows, a lot of things we didn't know about when they were happening. So
right, that's true. Jesse says, didn't never gotten to Buffy. I think I just missed her. Jesse, go back and check it out because I think you'll really enjoy it. Buffy is a great watch. So
Buffy, and then it did the spinoff with Angel.
Right, which I've not watched.
Angel, I actually enjoyed Angel. I'm gonna say this: there are certain episodes of Angel I enjoyed more than certain episodes of Buffy.
Sure.
Because it delves deep into that. So.
Yeah, there were several recurring characters other than the brothers on the show. My favorite one being what's his name? Oh my gosh, now I've totally lost it. I had it earlier. The older guy. We call him Idgits.
Oh look! I told you I lost it in the van.
You got your button back.
I got my
Lois
button
got her button back. And Mr. Keith says, Hey Keith, welcome to the party, my friend. Yeah, oh gosh. And his character's named after one of the showrunners. Hey, Shpoo.
I'm not showing my face.
Okay. He's the
I had a
mask.
shaving accident, so it's pretty much all gone.
Your face is all gone? All right.
My facial hair is all gone, and I don't.
Oh, I thought maybe your face was all gone. Maybe
I'll show you this
off.
much. That's it. Because that's
wow.
normal.
Look at that.
I mean, no mustache is normal for me. I hate having a mustache.
You can do the
But I said I'd make a cameo, so my list would be Supernatural, The Twilight Zone.
We've already talked about both those.
Okay, Nightmare Cafe.
I don't know that one. I have to look that one up.
It was back in the 80s. It was kind of Supernatural meets Twilight Zone-esque, but it starred like two random people and Robert Englund, which it was a great show. Look it up.
Have more? I already said Buffy. I think I like Buffy.
Buffy's good. Supernatural. Walking Dead. I like Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. Walking Dead was on my short list. It did not make my full list there, but yeah.
That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, Tales from the Crypt, yeah.
Yeah,
or
Tales from
Limits.
Yeah, both of those are great. We did talk a little bit about Tales from the Crypt earlier.
Tales from the Dark Side. That's another.
That's a good one.
Oh, Tales from the Dark Side. One that did not make my list that would be in that same vein is The Hitcher.
Is what?
The Hitcher.
The Hitch. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that one's a great one. So
that was a good one.
Yeah, so that one I thought about it and it just did not make my short list. But I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, so let me see if I can bring up that picture.
I'm going to start dinner now.
He's going to start our dinner.
All right, well, there you go. Dinner's a good thing to do.
I might pop in and out.
Please do. Hey, how's it going?
Wait, hold on. Lex has some favorites too. Oh, there it is.
There's the Nightmare Cafe for you.
Nightmare Cafe. He got a picture of it up.
Yeah.
Lex, we're talking about our favorite TV shows that have scary stories. I know you have a couple. Yeah. What are your couple?
One's actually one that's new release, and it's Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh yeah.
Which I watched that when I was a teenager, and they just brought it back.
Yeah.
And then
Stranger Things. God, I didn't even think
Goosebumps.
Oh yeah, I like Goosebumps.
Goosebumps is a great one. Yes.
Trick or Treat.
That's a movie.
Scary.
It's a movie. We're talking just TV shows.
Oh, okay.
Do you like there's a teenage witch you like? Sabrina.
She
likes Sabrina the Teenage Witch too.
The Teenage Witch one?
The Melissa Joan Hart one. Yes.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah.
So she likes anything with magic. So see,
that sounds like it runs in the family. I don't know.
Yep. It does run in the family. Her mom and I are both witches. It's okay.
She's a witch. There's Goosebumps for people that didn't know that one.
What's your favorite episode of Goosebumps?
That one, like the old one.
Any of them. You can even talk about the new ones. What's one of your favorite? Like, what one do you remember the most?
There was one where it's like a weird plant one.
A weird plant? I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
You like the one with the doll? Slappy.
Those ones are movies, though.
Those ones are movies? Okay.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Okay.
That's a great list, Lex. Thank you so much for joining us and getting us
just
through the list.
She just got here for Halloween.
I knew she was coming in, so I'm glad she was able to make it for part of it.
I'm going to be Wednesday for Halloween.
Ooh,
Yeah, tomorrow
nice.
my grandkids are having a Halloween party, and she's going to go as Wednesday Addams.
That's awesome. Wednesday Addams is a great character.
Yeah, we like her.
There's Sabrina, by the way, for you.
Yeah, Sabrina.
Yeah.
Yep.
It has my two favorite characters, the two grandmas.
Her aunts.
Yeah.
Two aunts. Yeah, her aunts are great.
And Zelda and aunts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what's the cat's name?
You always forget the cat's name. She always forgets Salem's name.
Always. Yeah.
I like Salem.
A different type of character, Salem, in the new Sabrina. So
and the new Sabrina is on my list. It's got to be because it takes my love of Sabrina from the comics, and it twists it in a darker sense. Because it's more set in the it's more comic book accurate Sabrina and her look and everything, but it's very much more macabre and talks about really dark, serious, and it's like a grown up Sabrina. But that was I really like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah,
plus,
it was sad that it ended after 4 seasons. So.
I was so sad because they could have carried on with it.
Right.
Kieran, who I like, she's such a good actress. I remember watching her as a little girl in Mad Men, and I was like, this girl can act, and she proves her acting chops in this.
Right.
The last season was a little bit more fun. They brought in the aunts from Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and one of the things when it's like, are you in a TV show? And that sort of fun thing. But no, it's a really good show if anybody really likes those dark kind of TV shows that just deal with a bunch of it's not your teenage witch Sabrina from the 90s at all.
Right. Not at the least. So no. Jesse's got several things to say and comments. So Tales from the Crypt, which we do like. That almost made my list. Dicker. Yay. Once Upon a Time's great.
It's like it's one of those. It and Grimm all came out around the same time, and I liked both of them. I've seen every episode.
Another Sleepy Hollow one also.
Sleepy Hollow was good.
That was good. Yeah. Those all made my consideration.
Right as a kid, Goosebumps. Like I remember, like my kids reading the books, and they loved them so much. And Ashley especially loved the TV show. And then Lex loves it, and it's just one of those shows that is just scary enough, to be fuel for nightmares as a kid, but not scary enough to be like, you can't watch this.
Right, exactly.
So,
and for some kids, it was pretty scary depending on their age. But yeah, there
are episodes that they could make into full-length movies for adults if they tweak the story a little bit, and it would be very scary. Yeah.
She also says she likes the Jack Black one with the new movies. Yep. And the doll is very scary.
The doll is always anytime, and that's why people don't like coming to my house. Anytime you have like scary dolls, it's always, because that's a childhood. It's Toy Story in horror. Anytime you have, because when you're a kid, you think my toys have personalities, and my toys have, and so to think that they come to life is always just a nightmare fueled
if they're bad, they are. You have the new new Chucky TV series has now come out. So
I haven't seen it yet.
that. I haven't either. I have not either. She also said Wednesday on Saturday for Lex being Wednesday Adams. So there you go.
Wednesday on Saturday.
Top three there for Keith.
Love Dracula. I've watched a couple of it, not a lot, and then Penny Dreadful was really good.
Penny Dreadful was really good. Yeah,
those are really good. Constantine's one of those ones that I feel like people forget. I know that sounds weird, but I think that people forget that it was an actual whole show. And yeah, Angel was love Angel.
See, so it was on weirdly. I could never watch it in order. So just an episode here or there, and one season things are doing one thing, and one season
the
cast
it's
is completely
one that you really
different.
have to watch in order.
Right. So
that's
one of those things that I always thought I would go back and watch it, and I still plan on it. Jesse also says, "Oh, that looks familiar, Mad Men." That's right, from Mad Men. And agree about Penny Dreadful. All right.
Penny Dreadful is really good.
Yes, it is. It's a weird one. It's very weird. I like that it's set in the Victorian London area. I mean, that's kind of cool. So I do enjoy Penny Dreadful, but it is kind of crazy. But that's all right. I don't mind kind of crazy. You just got to know going in what you're getting, right?
Right. It's really great too. Since in the Netflix era, right? I'll just say that there have been so many amazing TV shows that are on streaming sites that really would have been back in the day made into a rush 2-hour movie.
Right.
But they have allowed them to become TV series. And there are so many good ones from like the recent ones, Squid Games to, to Penny Dreadful to, there's so many, Stranger Things. All of those shows would have in the past not made it to network television.
Right.
So they would have been forced to go into a movie.
Right.
And then it wouldn't have told the story as well. I love that they're doing these. I call them like mini movie TV series where they take what would have been pushed into a movie and they've made it into like a TV series, so you can really delve into the character building and the world building a lot more, and it's not forced as much.
Completely agree. So let me go with one on my list here.
Yes.
So we're going to go back to our childhood because this is when my love for the spooky but still fun sort of things were. And so I'm including this because I think this one really belongs on the list. And I'm talking about Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Scooby. Of course it belongs on the list. What more do you need? It is a bunch of kids and a dog solving mysteries about haunted things.
Right.
I mean, yes, please. As a kid, I think that this is probably a lot of people's first show that has like ghosts, but are they real? Are they not real?
Right.
Like, and it's fun. And 99% of the time they're not.
Right.
In the show. Once in a while they had a special where it was like, oh, that's a real ghost. Oh, that's a real werewolf. Like, and it always left you wondering, but it is that first experience on TV for a lot of children with cryptids and with the lore of like Dracula and Frankenstein and werewolves and all of the things that I love. So no, Scooby-Doo has to be on the list. Somebody's list.
Know that it's probably Old Man Johnson who owns the abandoned amusement park. It's probably him.
Probably him, or that farmer down the way.
Right, who really knew that the land had oil on it, was trying to spook everybody off.
Or the mayor.
The mayor, yes.
But no, Scooby-Doo, like I said, is probably one of those shows that for our generation why we love the sci-fi and horror and
yes, exactly,
so much, because it introduced us to those things. You know, a lot of us weren't. I had a mom who loved horror, so I was allowed, which is weird. I was not allowed to watch certain TV shows, but I was allowed to watch like the Twilight Zone reruns and and stuff like that. And Tales from the Crypt was one of my most favorite shows ever. But you know, it's one of those things. Scooby-Doo. Without Scooby-Doo, I think a lot of people wouldn't be as open-minded and into those things.
It's that, you know, that beginning drug there that gets us going. So
gets you hooked.
Yeah, gateway drug. It's your gateway drug into this, and it was mine. So when I was young, there were 3 things I had to watch as a kid on Saturday morning, and I would throw an absolute fit if I did not get to watch Super Friends, Land of the Lost, and Scooby-Doo. Those were the 3 that I had to have. Scooby makes the list. Scooby's awesome. So
Scooby is amazing.
Yeah.
That's like such a good, like, it's just a great thing. And it's a great thing. Also, if you have a child, and I'm just going to break the thing, but if you have a child who has a hard time discerning fact and fiction, Scooby-Doo's great for that, because they learn that 90% of the time, if not more, there are reasons behind it. These scary things aren't really scary. They're people pulling tricks on you. So I think it was such an inventive concept.
Right.
And that's just held through. For years.
And the original is, you know, the Scooby-Doo Where Are You is the superior one to every other one that came after. There's some other good ones afterwards, but Scooby-Doo Where Are You with the castle and the bats flying, and that's the one. That's what we Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Yeah, exactly. So we'll go from there. I won't sing anymore. We got a couple more comments here. We'll go. Keith says Constantine on CW sucks. I get that, Keith. I understand. It was good that they brought him over if they were going to use a Constantine character. But yeah, I get it. And Jesse does like my pick of Scooby-Doo. Thank you, Jesse. So we do have that going on.
Since we went back to childhood, now this is before my time, but...
well, Scooby-Doo Where Are You really is, too. They showed reruns, but it was before when it aired the first time.
I would have to say there are 2 families that have to make the list of spooky TV shows because they were the first.
Yep.
And that would, of course, be the Addams Family and the Munsters.
Right.
They are just all around wonderful family sitcoms, which, you know, that's what was selling at the time. But done in a, let's create these monsters or create these kooky, spooky characters that are just not quite normal.
Right. I'm with you. And I love both of those. My first introduction was the Munsters. I saw that before I saw Addams Family. And the humor of the Munsters really stood out for me.
Fred Gwynn, seriously.
Yeah.
That man...
I agree.
Lily Munster was such a typical housewife mom, but in a monster way.
Right.
Which
and she's
was just
beautiful. Without the makeup and
stunning.
Stunning. Yeah. It was just incredible.
Von DeCarlo was just a beautiful woman. And if you see stuff before she played Lily Munster, if you see some of her older movies, Drop Dead Gorgeous, like Hedy Lamarr and her,
you're right.
Drop Dead Gorgeous women. But yeah, no, she's just such a wonderful like representation of where housewives were at the time. But at the same time, she also spoke against her husband a lot more. You knew she was the smart one. Like, you know, Herman Munster was just the monster with the heart of gold, but not the best brain.
And his laugh was infectious.
Oh my gosh.
And Grandpa. And I loved, I forget what her name was, the cousin, Marilyn. Marilyn, who thinks she's horribly hideous because
her whole family are monsters, and she's drop dead gorgeous.
She is,
and nobody can understand why she has a complex.
And the boyfriends keep running off.
Of course they would. Like, can you imagine Herman answering the door when you're a teenage boy trying to go on a date with a girl? Like, I'm serious. Like that's. Yeah.
Dragging under the stairs, and Grandpa, who's a mad scientist, Dracula. Yeah, I mean, it's great. So here's a couple of pictures. The original Addams Family.
Addams Family. Addams Family. You just can't beat. Everything about that family is wonderful. I still say to this day that Gomez and Morticia are the relationship goals, because no matter what happens, no matter how kooky, crazy, weird they are, they just love each other for who they are.
Right.
And they love their kids, but they allow their kids to be who they are as well.
Right. Well, and you got the extended family that's kind of crazy.
Lurch,
right.
Uncle Fester.
Cousin Ed. I mean, I've just got to love that. Actually, and I really like the first cartoon. I've not seen the second one yet that came out. But the first one was a lot of fun.
So good.
So I'm really enjoying it. The monsters there.
I mean, look at that.
The only thing better would have been their car. I love the car.
Their car was amazing. And I love that Herman had a job.
At a funeral parlor.
Funeral home. Like, think about this for a minute. Like, this is a typical 1960s, 50s, 60s family. And he has a job. Like, he still goes to work. He's a monster.
Right.
But they accept him. And that's just such a great thing. I love, like, one of the first episodes of the Addams Family is Wednesday and Pugsley don't want to go to school.
Right.
And because, and they don't want to send them to school. And the school's like, no, you should really send them to school. And I'm like, and that's the premise of the cartoon that came out, was them going to public school and stuff. But I just love that. I think it's such a fun thing. And when you talk about Halloween type TV shows, you cannot have a list without those two families.
Well, and I'm glad you added those, because I thought they were probably going to be on your list, so I did put them on mine. And mine was already at 5, and I had a hard time wanting to move anything on my 5.
I just squished them together, though.
You did. Well, and that's all right, because they were at the same time period,
and they both had that, like, that 50s feel to them, with the mom staying at home and the dad going to work and the kids getting into mischief and like grandma on one and grandpa on the other, and that extended family, and then the weird pets, and they were very similar but different at the same time, but they're such classics. And I know a lot of people love, like, the movies that came out, and all of that, but please go back and watch the originals. They're so good. And Fred Gwynn as Herman Munster, and Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster are a stunning, funny couple.
Yes,
in
they are.
A weird way. It's like they mash so well together. Monster mash. See what I did there?
Do the monster mash.
I'm a nerd.
My favorite Monster Mash, by the way, is the one Vincent Price did in '77. It's not the original. That's neither here nor there. I'm throwing that in for free. Keith says, "What, there are other shows after Scooby-Doo? Where are you?" Sadly, yes, Keith. I mean, some of them were good, some of them were not. And when you started losing members of the group out to just have Shaggy and Scooby, or you added some sort of mutant pet that was supposed to be related to him, I don't know. That's what I'm calling Scrappy. And Keith,
people hated Scrappy.
I hated Scrappy.
Hated Scrappy.
And that's because I grew up with this. Scrappy was no, we don't need Scrappy. In fact, the movie version from, what was it, the 90s or early 2000s,
where Scrappy's the evil.
He's
the bad guy. That's funny, though. That was funny. I liked that, though.
So Keith, for the movie or the TV show that you mentioned there, we're not going to show that right now because it's on my list. And he said, I read the original Charles Addams comics, which I've heard are amazing. The show is based off a comic strip that was very popular. So that is true. So, all right. So we talked about that. So let's go to one of mine here.
Yours.
So, okay. So here is my current favorite show on.
Okay.
Period. This is my favorite TV show on right now.
Okay.
And of course, I know we've talked about this, so I know you know what that is. But it's Stranger Things. I love this show. This show gets it so right with everything. Not just the 80s feel, but I love the 80s feel. The boys, the bikes, playing D&D, going to the mall, issues with 11. I mean, the whole thing is just amazing and so well written.
Yeah. And it's one of those that I said that it back in the 80s, it would have been made into the movie. Right.
It would have been.
It would never have made TV.
No.
And that would have been such a loss. Like, there are so many movies from the 80s, the 70s, and the 80s that if they went back and they made them into TV shows, I think they would do so much better. Because you can really, can you imagine trying to push that world building into 2 hours?
Right.
It would have been so difficult. But thank God it came out when it did, where it did. These streaming sites, whether we love them or hate them, and I think sometimes we have a both love and hate relationship with these streaming sites, they allow these TV shows to be made in ways that are very movie-like. The production value is that of a Hollywood film. Right. And this one has it. And like you said, it brings that 1980s feel, whether it be the music that plays, what the kids are doing, what they're dressing up for Halloween.
Right. Ghostbusters.
Like, that is seriously what kids dressed as for Halloween as.
Yeah,
like,
they've
because
nailed it.
Just came out and it was the popular thing. It's just such a good, well done script. The acting is amazing. These kids, some of these kids, like, some of them are in this, and then they're also in it, and then those kids that are in those two things, they're going to just take Hollywood by storm, and they're just going to get better and better as they age, which is just an amazing thing to watch.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
But the concept of this show, the upside down, like.
So it's another dimension, which we've seen before, but this one is a very one-dimensional and very opposite dimension with monsters that rule everything.
Right.
That feed on your horror. So so here's what Keith had to say about our conversation about Scooby-Doo. Scrappy rhymes with crappy. All right.
Oh, Keith.
And I agree with him. So, all right. So Stranger Things, if it's on, that's what I'm watching. As soon as season 4 drops, which I think is January, I'm watching it. I mean, that's what I'm going to be doing that weekend. Is I'm going to be spending my entire time doing that. And we're talking about, do we love or hate, or both? And sometimes these streaming networks, you can hate on them, but tell you what, they've revolutionized TV because regular TV has sucked for so long, and now we are getting so many good shows that my only problem is I don't have time to watch everything I want to watch.
Everything that's on.
I've got so much on my list on Netflix, on Hulu, on Disney Plus, on HBO Max. I mean, I can't get through half of what I want to watch.
I know.
And when I do watch, when I finally finish something, I'm like, oh, thank God I'm done with this. I'm like, oh, there's this whole list of things that look really cool that I want to watch. So I'm not upset, but I'm like, it's overwhelming. So
yes, and that's the thing. It's like, it is very overwhelming, the amount of choices you have. And unfortunately, people talk about the death of the movie theater and stuff, and this is going to bring about that a little bit. It just is. You're getting big movie stars in TV series,
right?
Because they can pay as much as the movies, but the actors can literally get into these characters more, and they can give these characters more life, and that's what they want to do. And you gotta give it to them.
If you can take something that could have been a good movie and make it into an excellent series because you can let these characters breathe. I mean, how cool would it have been in the 80s to have actually
Oh
seen
my
a
gosh.
Lost Boys series that was 3 seasons long that gave us more in depth about the characters rather than just a 2-hour movie.
That's the thing. That's the beauty of, and that's why I say these series that we're talking about that are the more modern ones, they would never have been made into TV series in America anyway back in the day. Like they wouldn't have been. And so for the beauty of it is just the fact that they can do this and they can expand that world and they can expand those characters, and you can give characters time to develop where a 2-hour movie can't do that. And now we have like, you know, movies that are a part of a huge series of movies, and so you can develop those characters throughout those movies and stuff. But back in the 70s and 80s, you didn't do that. You didn't know if you were going to get a sequel.
Right.
And barely, and even the most popular movies got 1 or 2 sequels. They didn't get, you know, enough time to expand the characters as much. So that's a thing. And that's what the streaming sites have brought to us, which I appreciate that a lot. So
no, I completely agree. So what would you like to go with next for your next one?
I'm trying to think. I have so many things that I love, and that's the problem.
That's always the problem, right? It certainly is.
Professor.
Well, I've got one more, so but
I'm gonna put I have to put Good Omens out there.
That's a great show. Yeah. Great.
It's not quite Halloween, but you know, you have angels and demons and
and
the Antichrist and stuff like that. So I feel like it fits into that.
No,
weird
I think it does. I
I
think it completely does.
And I'm so excited about the potential second season and But David Tennant and Martin Sheen, just amazing actors, and I love everything they do together. They make me happy.
Well, and I get that because they're awesome.
They just make me happy. And anytime you can take a book, you know, a classic or a cult followed, you know, like classic, they might not be like what you read in school, but ones that you should read. Well, I read all kinds of things in school, but you got to give it props. It does such a good job on telling the story that was such a good book, and I just love them together. The chemistry that they have.
I agree.
Amazing.
They play so well together, and
that's one of the same ones that I know for years people had been asking for it to be made into a movie, but I'm so glad they waited until it could be a series.
Right. I
because
agree.
It's so much better because we build this relationship up, and
because the comics didn't rush through it. It was something they built. So or the book. It was a book, not a comic. That's right. It was a book, not a comic. I'm thinking comic because of one of the writers, but no, it was a book.
Neil Gaiman.
Gaiman's usually known for his comics, and that was my. I knew as soon as I said that I said it wrong. So, but no, and I will say this: David Tennant is my favorite doctor, and I know other people have different favorite doctors. He's my favorite doctor, but I think he plays a better bad guy or anti-hero than he does the doctor. He's so scary. In Jessica Jones. Oh my gosh.
What? He's very versatile, but he has that evil little smirk that happens. But this is it's so good. It's so good. If you guys haven't seen it, you will laugh. You will be like, oh my gosh. It's just, and it's filmed in a way that's just wonderful. And I love the dog. Like the basically the Antichrist is saying what he wants for his birthday as a dog, and you know he's supposed to get a hellhound, and so they send him a hellhound, but he starts describing the dog, and this hellhound is like transforming into the dog that this little boy wants, which is like this little tiny dog.
Exactly.
Reminds me of Wishbone. Reminds me of Wishbone. Remember Wishbone?
Yes, I do remember
That's
Wishbone.
what he reminds me
Yeah,
of.
no, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Did you ever see?
Good Omens.
Did you ever see Fright Night, the remake? Now, the original '81 is great, by the way. I love the '80s Fright Night movie. The remake with David as the vampire. Oh my gosh, that's really good too. So I'm like, well, you finally have a good remake here. Oh look, we're adding somebody in. Somebody's joining us. It's Mr. Keith.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Keith, how's it going, sir?
Oh, it's going. It is going.
I feel like Keith.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, Keith. And sorry I didn't see your message earlier about that because I don't always have Facebook up. So
Blame Professor Keith. Blame me.
You guys are busy getting to the good stuff. You know, that's what that comes down to.
So Keith, you mentioned one in chat that I mentioned that I was going to wait on it, but that's my next one. Let's pull it up and let you talk about it here, and then we can all talk about it, and then you can throw in some other ones that we missed out here because again, the lists are only supposed to be 5, and there are so many great ones. Because I'm thinking, oh, there's not that many great ones, and then I got looking and I'm like, oh crap, here we go again. So we're gonna, you know what? I will tell you this. This series made me really want to believe. And we're going out with a little bit of X-Files as my number 1 series.
You know what? The thing about what Chris Carter was able to do, being a surfer guy,
dude,
and his way that it is, no one would have suspected that he was about to just blow the whole thing wide open and completely change the 90s. Look, I know a lot of people had what they liked in the 90s, but when X-Files hit, it just changed everything.
It did, yeah.
And as a show that was kind of like a hybrid between some of the best written episodes of Twilight Zone and no other show in recent memory that had ever really come across like that, and then to have the mythology, and look, I know that there were other movies, but as far as I was concerned, the first movie was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And mainly because it was done by the people that were putting on the show.
Right.
Because they tried to film it while the show was in production. And a lot of the problems that arose because of it prompted them to never try to do that again.
It's difficult to do.
It is difficult to do, but you know what? I tell people this all the time. Watch that movie again now.
Yeah.
And it looks phenomenal. It holds up. In fact, all of the episodes in the years after the movie look phenomenal, especially when everything goes high def.
Right.
The final 2 seasons, that stuff looks like it was shot yesterday. You know, so great episodes, great performances. If you're not scared at any time during an episode of the X-Files, you're not paying attention.
Right.
So
the great thing is it married, kind of that detective, FBI with this weird horror sci-fi, and it was just such a great blend that hadn't been really done before this point, and that's why it was so successful. Is it married it in a way that just made sense for people, and people could relate. Like you could relate to Mulder, you could relate to you could relate to all the characters,
Scully, and all of the characters that you would have. It is a show that is just built on stuff that already existed, but it's to the credit of Chris Carter and all of the writers and directors that he had on that show. And trust me, there are some people that came out of that show. If not for the X-Files, you would not have had Breaking Bad. You would not have had Space Above and Beyond. You would not have had The Lone Gunman. You would not have had, just the talent that came out of that show.
I agree completely. Yeah.
Professor, why was it on your list?
This is a show that captured my imagination in the 90s. After when I moved out
and the fact that
got married, all that, I didn't have a television for a few years, which was fine, and really didn't need a television. I didn't feel like I was missing much anyway. I've got a television in. Once I got a television in, this series hit shortly thereafter. And then I'm like, I'm scheduling my Friday nights, which, around it, right? Because at that point, the only other option was to VCR it, because there was no TiVo, there was no going back and streaming. This was, you had to either watch it live or you had to VCR
or you missed it.
And I didn't have a VCR at the time. So if a show is so engaging for me that I must watch it and schedule my weekend around it, that makes my list.
Right. Yeah.
And that there was one of those shows that really grabbed me in my adulthood and really said, you can really be involved in a show. So,
we lost Keith and then he's back.
He is. He's a big circle now. But yeah, we've got Keith back. I'm glad to have you back. Keith, far as television shows, and I know you mentioned some of them in the chat. Anything else that we missed that you want to mention? I know, talking about X-Files before we do that, there was a show called Kolchak. Was that what it was called?
Kolchak.
Yeah, Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
That was the show that inspired the X-Files, because Chris Carter was a big fan of it when he was younger. And that technically is like kind of like the spiritual grandfather show of the X-Files, along with its sister series, which I also enjoyed, called Millennium.
Jason mentioned that one earlier in chat, that Millennium was one of his favorites. He actually liked that one better.
Oh, geez, Millennium was amazing. Fantastic performances. Some really radically scary, but also stuff that is just borderline insane with some of the episodes from that show.
Right.
And again, it's Chris Carter and his production company really cornered the market on just getting people scared for a while.
Right.
So,
and the thing is they did it in such a way that, because I love it when I'm all about like science fiction and horror and stuff, but when you know the monsters are not real and stuff like that, it's different. They did it in such a way that made you question what if. In a very real way, not in a like, could this happen? Oh, probably not. They had you questioning, is this possible?
Is the government really involved in an alien conspiracy to keep us,
because it opened up a lot of people's minds to the thought of aliens being real, because in the 50s and 60s people were really like, no, these are UFOs and all this stuff, and then this, like, the late 60s and 70s and even early 80s, they like really pushed it to where it's like, oh, if you believe in aliens, you're a little wacky. Even in TV shows, they portrayed that. And then this brought like this FBI agent who had credibility because he's an FBI agent, and her being a skeptic, but then her seeing things through, and she's really us in this, like, we're skeptics, and most of the viewers were probably skeptics, and then she is trying to find the logical reason behind these things, and they're not always answered.
Well, also the whole thing, though, you got to remember how she came into this, though.
Right.
She was brought in by the people that wanted to throw Mulder off.
Yeah.
Okay. She was meant to actually help to shut it down. Yeah. And she became a part of the investigation that ended up going kind of the opposite direction, which brings us to the movie, the first X-Files movie, which I still think is one of the best examples of how to create a movie while a television series is still going. And that movie answered so many questions. And did either of you guys ever come across the soundtrack for the movie?
I don't know if I came across the soundtrack. I saw the movie in the theater. I remember that.
Yeah.
For those that actually bought it, and you had to have the CD version of it, there is a hidden track on the soundtrack.
Really?
Okay. At 10:13 for the final song, you got to wait 10 minutes and 13 seconds. Right at 10:13, which is the name of the production company, 1013 Productions, and that's Chris Carter's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a voice, and it's Chris Carter, and he explains the entire conspiracy.
Oh.
Interesting.
He reveals the entire thing. That way, for those of you who are confused as to, well, what was all this about? He tells you on the soundtrack to the first X-Files film. He reveals the entire plot.
So if I get it on CD, I'm guessing it won't play right on my 8-track. Is that right?
Yeah, that's yeah.
All right, okay. Just checking.
Sorry.
Just checking.
You gotta get new machines. You gotta get new machines.
For those of you that have a library that is pretty extensive, you can still probably find the X-Files soundtrack at your local library, and be able to listen for yourself. But it's called X-Files Fight the Future. And the final track on that CD, if you listen to it, and then as soon as the music ends, you gotta wait 10 for the counter to go to 10:13, and then there'll be a voice. That's fun. And it's not even like I'm Chris Carter. It's like, and the alien conspiracy, blah 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 blah, and he just starts talking. he just goes right into it. And connects everything so that you could basically, if you've been watching the show up to this point and you still do not understand what's going on, he explains it to you.
Explains it.
This is what the conspiracy actually is.
That's beautiful.
There you go. That's interesting, Keith. Well, Keith, do you have any other shows you want to mention real quick, and then we're gonna do some specials.
I just got a simp again for Penny Dreadful. Yeah. The thing about Penny Dreadful is you have to at least understand what a Penny Dreadful is.
Right.
Okay? A Penny Dreadful was a kind of an earlier version, I think, for the 19th century of what a dime store novel was.
Yep.
Right.
Okay? And it was meant to have all these incredible stories and tales, usually horror, within it. But what made Penny Dreadful, the series, so big for me and for others was the fact that you had the guy who co-wrote the script, the Academy Award-winning script for Gladiator, and also co-wrote the final good Star Trek movie from the Next Generation crew. He created this and use the gothic horror of classic horror as the main basis for this. So this isn't just, hey, let's be scary. This is weaving a gothic tale of characters. And I will say this. To this day, I, along with others, am pretty much of the mind that the show was ended on purpose. That the reason given for the end of the show had less to do with the cost and more to do with the fact that I think the creator of the series was not very happy with his relationship with the network. And in this case, it was Starz, I think. No, it was Showtime. It was Showtime. And he just sort of ended the show, which is too bad. Because the show had revealed so much. And the actors alone on this show, I would match up against actors from any other television series. I mean, you have James Bond as part of your cast. Right. Timothy Dalton. You have Eva Green, which many people probably didn't know who she was prior to her being on Casino Royale. Yeah. You know, and just the rest of that cast is just amazing, an amazing cast.
I agree.
So I tell people, if you've never seen it, check it out, but understand this is truly some scary stuff.
Right.
That pilot episode is not for the faint of hearted.
It is not.
Okay? It is not, and it's not for people under a certain age either, because this is guaranteed to give you nightmares. Okay? The Dracula show that was on NBC in 2013 is kind of like that, but not as graphic.
Right.
And not really meant to be as scary. Okay? Right. It was a show that was on primetime television, like Constantine, and was more of a gothic rearrangement of the Dracula tale,
right,
told in the late 19th century.
Yeah.
Some of the stars, like one of the stars of Supergirl, is actually a part of the cast of this. And that also had a fantastic cast. You know, Constantine, fantastic show, one of the best adapted DC comics from a version of the character that I still find to be one of the best. The writers for Greg Berlanti and the CW network didn't know how to write for this character.
No, I agree with that.
And they completely just botched it. They just completely botched it. And so, as far as any other shows, there aren't that many more. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there are a lot of scary shows out there. Love what you love, enjoy what you enjoy. But if I had to pick 5, it was a struggle just to come up with the ones that I did, because there are so many to pick from. But those first 3 that I picked elicited such a response. If I had to pick anything else, as I said before, Angel, because it was so darn good.
Yes.
The character arcs.
About Buffy, but Angel, like as a spin-off,
like
there's not very many spin-offs that I think that raise the bar from the original shows.
Yeah.
If you go like spin-offs, Frasier, of course, was more successful than Cheers in a lot of people's minds, that sort of thing. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I don't think that was true. Not when you look at ratings.
But in a lot of people's mind, it's considered that. But Angel, the character development that happens in Angel is so amazing, and it's just the storytelling gets darker and more intense and more to the heart of like humanity, which is weird because it's Angel's the vampire and everything, but it's one of my favorites.
Of course. Well, look at what you can do in 5 seasons.
Yeah.
You got to understand, they accomplished all this in 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the way that everything was structured, Buffy was really about how to deal with and live through your teenage years.
Yes.
Angel as a series was about getting into your 20s, moving out on your own, and how your life is really different than post high school. Yep. Okay. When you're in your 20s, it's not easier. It's actually kind of harder in many respects.
So
and then, how to live with having done something. It's about forgiveness also,
forgiveness
because of yourself, but also of others, because that's a hard thing. That is a hard thing. And that is a constant lesson of that entire series, which is forgiveness.
Yeah. And even when you can't forgive yourself, learning to live with what you have done.
That's right.
Like, even if you can't, because a lot of it is they can't get to that point of forgiveness, a lot of the struggles of the characters, but learning to be like, okay, well, I've learned from this and I need to do better, and trying to make better choices and be better people and just learning from it, but in a way that's so thoughtful and so real. And that's the thing, is like, I'm like, when people always, and I loved Buffy, don't get me wrong, I loved Buffy, but
Buffy,
but
it isn't my favorite. It isn't just so much that it's a spinoff. there's a part of Buffy that is actually functioning within Angel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the characters that you're introduced to later on is actually part of this long story that they have been telling that actually is part of, really, it's part of Buffy's storyline and eventually becomes part of Angel's storyline. There's a story running underneath it. And it starts with, I think, the second or third episode of Buffy, season 1. There's a character that you're introduced to who ends up being the only character who is not a part of either cast, but their story runs the length of both shows. And it's a young lady who ends up becoming lost. She ends up with the wrong people. And when Buffy comes back from when Buffy goes to LA and lives her life there for a summer, and she comes back, when she leaves LA, she gives her apartment and the uniform for the place where she works to a young girl, and it turns out it's that same girl who Buffy had run into. And she, as a character, ends up becoming a part of the Angel series.
Yeah.
And you see her story play out all the way to the final episode.
It was such a great storytelling moment, like TV, and this
is what proper planning can do. This is where talented people have an opportunity to show you what can be done. And again, it's 90s. Hey kids, it's the 90s, because there's a whole host of shows. I mean, seriously, if you really look at it, the most effective shows to be able to tell really good stories and kind of have that almost kind of horror type tinge to it started out with Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Which also led to the X-Files. And then from there, you go to Fringe and Lost. So Fringe is another show. If I had there goes my 5. Fringe is another show, and it's American Quatermass is really all Fringe is. Fringe is nothing more than American Quatermass. And if me saying Quatermass doesn't elicit anything within you, then you know what you need to do. You need to be looking up Quatermass, because Quatermass is the ultimate character, British science fiction character, kind of predating the X-Files a little bit. But the television series Fringe, that pretty much is it, being human.
Yeah.
The British version, the American version is good. Yeah. British version's better.
Agreed. And that was on my short list of things that make it also. I love that show. So we're getting close to 2 hours. So let's go ahead and hit these specials for us so we can get things ramped up. Since AJ is not feeling well, that way we'll let her get back to rest, and we'll just kind of hit this list. Feel free to add things in here. Let me give you my list of really awesome TV specials that we have that are fitting in this area. First one, I know this is one of AJ's favorites because she's mentioned this before. Do a little Halloween Town.
Halloween Town.
So
this was and there's 4 movies, and it's just fun. Alexis watching it the other day. She watched the first 3 of them. But you can't beat Debbie Reynolds playing a ghost or a witch grandma, and it's just a fun thing. And it's a Disney TV series that they put out for Halloween, like Twitches. They did Twitches and Twitches too.
Yes, they did.
But it's so family friendly and cute, and it is totally Halloween based.
Totally Halloween based. It certainly is.
Halloween specials. No one tops Roseanne and The Simpsons.
Well,
Did you hear Shpoo?
no, that's true, and they do have the special episodes. That's very true.
Roseanne special episodes, Halloween episodes, they always.
Well,
better one. Two guys, a girl, and a pizza place. Their Halloween specials that they did were legendary, and this is pre-big time Ryan Reynolds, and after a while, the writers. That's how he got his big break. That's how he got his big break, was starring in that.
I've seen it, but Shpoo's never watched that series. So.
Yeah, well, he's not the only one that got his big break, but he's one of the reasons. For those of you who are fans of Firefly, Captain Tight Pants also made his debut in Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, and the two of them together on a television series, and some of the episodes they did for Halloween. Classic stuff.
And I know Home Improvement had some really good Halloween episodes also.
Yeah.
So another one on my list here is, and this goes way back to my childhood, and this was a TV cartoon special, and we're not talking about the big one here. We're talking about a different one, but this one was a little Fat Albert. Fat Albert Halloween special. I love this Halloween special. I used to make sure I watched this every year.
Yeah.
Love Fat Albert. Love the whole gang and them going around and trying to do tricks on the neighbors and getting scared. And I just remember watching this show and just thinking it was the greatest. So,
yeah. I thought you were going for the big one there.
Nope, not going for the big one yet. I'm waiting on the big one. So do you guys remember the ABC weekend specials that would use? A lot of times they would come on after cartoons were over.
Yeah. And
a lot of times they would take and adapt the book. Well, there was one that every time it was on, I just was fascinated with it. And again, this is from my early childhood here. It was called Mrs. Switch. Trouble with Mrs. Switch. Do you guys remember this one at all?
Oh my God.
Right?
Professor. Oh, I forgot.
Am I not pulling in our childhoods here?
Holy moly, Professor. Oh.
This was one of those things that really made an impact on me that I just really loved. Basically, these kids' teacher is a witch, and they think she's a witch, and later, and it's a 2-part episode thing, and they find out she really is a witch, but the witch council has made somebody else in charge that's a bad person, and she has to go save the day. So with the kids and tow.
Sounds like a version of Mission Magic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, see, I can tell from your response you might not know that. Mission Magic was a Saturday morning cartoon, and it was about a witch who happened to be someone who taught her students. But the thing is that in order to teach lessons, because this also sounds like a Nickelodeon show that they would invent later on,
right?
She would take the kids over to this magical land where she also was aided by a young man named Rick. And Rick would often help to teach the kids a few things, but it was mainly just a vehicle for him to be able to sing the latest original song that he had.
Right.
And it was the Australian young man, Rick Springfield.
Yeah.
And this was a cartoon from at least 1971, 72.
Okay.
And so,
this predates his time on General Hospital.
Oh, by a lot.
Yeah.
This was I think around the time that he had done Columbo.
Okay. So that because I know that the book for Mrs. Switch was from 1973. They adapted it in 77 into the TV special. But that sounds So
this is before I even moved to the Midwest. I mean to Missouri. So this is pre 1977.
Wow,
and the show, you can still find clips of the show on YouTube. And if you listen real closely, you can still hear Rick Springfield's Australian accent.
There you go.
Mission Magic.
We'll have to check that out. That one I did not know, Keith. That one was a new one for me. So now I want to go I've gone kind of a little bit cartoons and kid stuff. So I want to go something that was important in the 80s that was a TV special because it was a music video. It happened to be really special, and they made a huge deal out of it. We're talking about Thriller.
Oh, for a moment there, I thought you were talking Kiss versus the Phantom, but okay.
Well, yeah. I do remember that, by the way.
I remember when everyone was going, "Are you gonna watch Thriller? Are you gonna watch Thriller? Are you gonna It was like a huge thing. Everyone was sitting at home watching this music video.
We had a class party for this. Our 6th grade class or whatever got together as a class to watch this music video.
Yeah. No,
every hour on the hour, MTV played it when it premiered. They had it at the top of every hour.
Yeah.
And they had a special that went with it.
Yep.
And about how they made it, and you could see the choreography and oh geez, it was I think it was director John Landis.
Yeah.
And this was his first this was really what helped him get back after the whole Twilight Zone fiasco.
Right.
So
and this was big. I mean, any teenager in the 80s, at least during this time of the 80s, knew Thriller, and this music video.
I mean, it's still
amazing.
big. It still makes
it is.
It still makes its appearance in so many movies, and and so many pop culture references and everything. It's still a huge thing in our culture. So
I was at a stoplight 6 months ago, and it was warm, so maybe it was a little, I don't know what time it was, but it was right before we moved to the new house. So and we're at a stoplight. Thriller comes on the radio, and I'm actually, and my wife is driving, and we're in the van. I've got my 2 kids behind me. They're just rolling their eyes. But Thriller's come on, and I start doing the dance to it in my seat, right? Somebody pulls up next to us, looks over at me, points at me to whoever's in the car. I rolled in my window and said, "It's Thriller." So they start dancing with me also. They're not even hearing it. This is 2021, and we're still doing the Thriller dance because it's on, right? So that's pretty big.
It it's good music because it's Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones producing. Come on.
It was the largest selling album of all times until 2017 when the Eagles' greatest hits overcame it. But it's still one of those things where it has sold so many copies, records, cassettes, CDs, digital downloads. It's just amazing. So, and there's not a bad song on that whole album. But this one is, and then of course at the end, Vincent Price's little thing at the end with his laugh. I mean, that's priceless right there.
Oh, you got to say Missouri acting legend Vincent Price.
That's true. Horror superstar.
Yeah.
Because we know AJ loves herself some Vincent Price, as do I. So
the man is Vincent Price is everything in the horror thing. He's one of those people that if you're talking horror movies and you of all time and you don't have a Vincent Price movie on your list, then there's something wrong with you.
Well, they get to kick you out of the state of Missouri if you aren't a fan of at least one of his movies.
Or out of the world, maybe sending to the moon. All right, and the final one on the list, everybody knows what it is. It's the one we have to watch every year for it to be Halloween. It's the Great Pumpkin,
Charlie Brown.
Yeah, I got a rock.
There's a Funny or Die had something where they did a trailer for a they did all of these actors playing the Peanuts game, except it was a trailer for a horror movie version of that. And Tyler Hoechlin, who's the new Superman and Superman and Lois, is actually part of the cast.
That's interesting.
He plays. I think he's Schroeder.
Oh,
But I think he's Schroeder. I think. But there's all these, like, some of them are like big CW actors, all playing in sort of like a version of, and I think the actor Dylan O'Brien is Charlie Brown.
Brian.
He's Charlie
Dakota
Brown.
would kill me if I didn't love him. Dakota loves him like he loves everything about him, and from Teen Wolf to any movie he's ever been in.
Well, I think he's Charlie Brown, and Charlie loses it and starts taking people out.
Yes. Lucy's psychiatry didn't work on him.
Finally, he's gonna get Lucy for pulling that ball.
But Lucy, Linus, Sally, he takes everybody out.
There you go. the one girl that tells him
Charlie Brown.
Oh, there were two lists. One of them were for the people to invite to the Halloween party, and one was for them who not to invite. We must have got that crossed up. She dies first. Was it Violet? Was that who it is? Violet? Dies first, right there. Just shut up, Violet.
So, Professor wanted me to do this before I left because I'm not feeling great. But this is my Lola costume, which is just any nerdy shirt.
Hold on. Let's zoom you in here. We're gonna make you the primary view.
Oh God, you're gonna make me be the primary.
Solo. Wow. There we go. There we are.
Yay!
Too many of me. Too much of me. So, my pants.
Wow.
Are hand painted.
That is so awesome.
I am Sherlock Holmes.
Yep.
The Flash, Pokemon, a TARDIS, Rosie from the Jetsons, and even on the back, I have a Care Bear on my butt. Care Bear heart.
There you go.
So that was. I went into the office today, and they were like, "Who made your pants?" I was like, "I did. It's fine."
That is awesome. That is
wow.
Took me about 20 minutes.
Wow.
For Lola.
Yeah, I bet so. Well,
I thought about doing it. I actually thought about doing a line of getting a line of kids' jeans and just doing this to kids' jeans and selling at cons. So
that would be awesome. Make it for adults too.
Adult jeans. People will be like. I thought about doing jean jackets too.
Ooh, that would be awesome. Jean jackets are back, so there we go.
So,
all right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap up our show. Thank you, Keith, for joining us.
Thank you, Keith.
AJ, Lola, thank you for joining us today. We're so glad you're here. Sorry you're not feeling good. We want you to feel better, and hopefully you'll get feeling better this weekend.
Get better.
We're gonna do our little wrap up here, and tell everybody goodbye. I've got someplace I've got to head out to here in a moment, so that'll work out. Do you feel up to doing the goodbye list, or do you want me to do it for us?
You can do it for us today.
All right, very good. I know. I did it last week. So before we, do anything, let's mention our buddy Keith down below here. He's got that show, that one little show with Gary called Pop Culture Minefield. They keep winning awards and exploding. People know them everywhere. They interview the president, all that. So,
whoa. Look, I'm lucky enough to be on with Gary, who just keeps surprising me every week. We just had our TGIF episode today where we were on with the director of the classic film, The Lady in White. It was a great episode today. But again, I'm just lucky because I get to be around people like you and AJ and Gary and Shpoo and all the others. The really cool people.
Gary knows everyone.
Oh, Gary knows everybody. I still think there's people he knows he's never told me about.
Yeah, there probably is. He's probably got a hat trick somewhere I'm waiting.
Just
God.
wait till he gets a load of me. And don't forget about Keith's individual show called Keith Chimes In. And it's on the
Babylon 5. Babylon 5.
Babylon 5.
Oh, there's a lot of episodes. We're in season 3, and we just started the show. See, we first 2 seasons are preamble.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we're getting into the thick of it.
Right.
And oh my goodness,
you certainly are.
This is going to be great. So if you want to check it out, it's every Monday on the Fat Steven Seagal's channel. And just look for Babylon 5, Fat Steven Seagal channel, and you'll find us.
And remember, guys, when you're over on these YouTube channels, all of our friends that we're mentioning, hit that subscribe button, comment, like, share. If you're on our Facebook pages and any of the Facebook pages we're sharing, be sure to hit the like. Let them know what you think of what they're doing, because that's really important to all of us. Because we want to know that you guys are enjoying what we're doing.
And when you do that, it allows others to enjoy the same sort of thing, because YouTube has that weird algorithm. It's weird, and you don't get to see everything unless people like it. I don't know. Yeah. So we've got our friends over at the Ozpod Gals, and they actually have a show up tonight. They're doing a show. Yeah, they did a show that's pre-recorded show tonight for their Halloween special. It started at 6, but it's going to be on their Facebook page, so you guys go check it. And we will do our best to get that uploaded on GeekyKOOL also. We've got our friends over at the Nerd Informants.
Yay!
Oh my gosh!
Tim and Josh over there.
Dr. Doom today to the office.
Ooh.
I work with Tim from the Nerd Informants at the newspaper, and he came in as Dr. Doom.
Or did
That's very
Did he come in as a Doom bot? We don't know. All right.
That's very.
They've got the Nerd Informants Beyond Facebook page also that you can check out. You can add things to. Make sure to put the stuff that you are interested in on there. Any sort of thing will work. Keep it geeky and nerdy, and they will. They're happy to have you over there as a place to be able to post cool stuff and share around.
Or ask questions, or
most definitely. Any of that. It's a great place to check stuff out. A one-stop shop. And of course, our partner, the Skallywag himself, we saw for a couple of minutes there. He's making dinner, but they've got Skallywag Productions. Yep.
Hold on. He has an announcement.
All right. Here's an announcement. This just in.
Now, he's cooking, so
you're going to hear me, but see her. So just...
It's a prettier version.
It's true. Chicken and flour all over my hand. So it was requested on Nerd Informants Beyond that I do a review of Tiger King 2, which is coming out on the 17th of November.
Yeah.
So you heard it here first, folks. Skallywag Productions will officially be returning to making videos as soon as that releases.
With the Tiger King.
The Tiger King. Well, he did when Tiger King came out last year. He did each episode. He broke down. So that's the plan for this.
I remember watching him because he would come in and go, "Okay, guys, I can't believe I just watched this. Okay, let me. Oh my gosh, what is going on?" Show?
He would watch an episode and he would be like, "You can't watch any further." And he'd go and film.
He would. And it was like he was talking to one of his friends. Guys, you can't believe what's going on here. It's just crazy. So we're looking forward to that, Shpoo. We're glad you're going to be back. We're hoping that your health is going to let you be back full time very soon. And of course, we've got ourself, the GeekyKOOL.com, where you guys can come in and see all the stuff that we're posting, because we've got articles, we've got trailers, we've got all sorts of great contributors. And we've got some that are going to be starting up doing some stuff very soon. So these guys are great. I've got a great group that I work with, including Miss AJ, and what they've got to say is very cool. So check them out. Check out everything we post, and we want to make that a place for geeks and nerds to be able to come and find all the latest information, all the news, all the trailers, all that. So we try to get all that stuff up. So
and remember, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube. You're watching us on one of those. So while you're watching us, hit subscribe or like. Go over to the other one, hit subscribe and like. And as always, let us know what you think, because we love getting input. If you have an idea for a show you would like us to do, a list that you would like, or just a topic that you would like us to tackle, let us know, because half the time we're having a hard time finding time.
Oh, jeez.
Pulling the stuff out of our butt. But
It's a true story, Keith. It's a true story.
Oh,
That's what we
man.
do today.
Yeah. What are we gonna do tonight, Brain? We do it every night, Geeky. All right. So, all right, guys. Well, we are going to end it there. Thank you so much again. We appreciate all of you for watching and your time, because you've got a lot of options. We do appreciate when you tune in. Keith, thank you again for joining us. We always love what you do. And thank you for helping cover on Monday. That was awesome. But
hey, anytime.
I appreciate that so much. We had a family death, so.
Hopefully next Tuesday we'll be back on. I think I'm on late shift, so I think that means we'll be a later time, probably 7:15. But we'll talk about that and make sure everybody knows what time it'll be and when it will be. But until then, everybody have a fantastic Halloween, which is Sunday, and
be safe.
Be safe, and make sure if you're eating candy to get that X-ray, to make sure you're not getting a vaccine in it or something. I don't know. I'm just teasing. So, looking for those needles. I don't know. Whatever.
Now, Professor.
Yeah, people are going to think, oh my gosh, they're anti-vaxxers. No, that's not true either. So, but no, not at all. Got all mine. Actually, got a couple of this week vaccines, but they were different things. So anyway,
I got to get my booster.
Yeah, that's an important thing to get. All right, guys, stay geeky. We'll talk.